Howdy everyone, it's Reese, aka Bearman Prime, on this January the 25th. Welcome back to my Read the Bible in a Year series. Thank you so much for joining me. Cards in the top right hand corner for the rest of the playlist, and please hit that subscribe and notification bell so you aren't missing a thing. Alright, so yesterday was the next part of God's plan with Joseph. He has given Pharaoh these prophetic dreams about what's going to happen in the land of Egypt. No one could interpret these dreams. God had not revealed that information to anyone else. But then the wine server remembered Joseph, brought him out of prison, and Joseph, with God's movement, with God's power, interpreted the dreams. Egypt will experience 7 good years, plenty of food, plenty of harvest. Then after that, there will be 7 years of famine. And so Joseph has suggested to Pharaoh that he appoints someone to be in charge of all the food gathering in these 7 years of plenty, where out of all the food that's gathered throughout those 7 years, 1/5 of it is going to go into storehouses controlled by Pharaoh. That way, when the 7 years of famine come, there will be food stored up and saved for that emergency. So now we're going to continue on where we left off there in verse 37 of chapter 41 and finish out the chapter from there. So Genesis 41, starting in verse 37. This, Joseph's idea, seemed like a very good idea to Pharaoh, and all of his officials agreed. Then Pharaoh told them, "I don't think we can find anyone better than Joseph to take this job. God's spirit is in him, making him very wise." So Pharaoh said to Joseph, "God showed these things to you, so you must be the wisest man. I will put you in charge of my country, and the people will obey all your commands. I will be the only one more powerful than you." Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I now make you governor over all of Egypt." Then Pharaoh gave his special ring to Joseph. The royal seal was on this ring. Pharaoh also gave Joseph a fine linen robe and a gold chain around his neck. Then he told Joseph to ride in his second chariot. Pharaoh's officials said, "Let him be the governor over the whole land of Egypt." Then Pharaoh said to him, "I am Pharaoh, the king over everyone in Egypt, but no one else in Egypt can lift a hand or move a foot unless you say he can." Then Pharaoh gave Joseph another name, Zaphanath-Paneah. He also gave Joseph a wife named Asenath. She was the daughter of Potipharah, a priest in the city of On. So Joseph became the governor over the whole country of Egypt. Joseph was 30 years old when he began serving the king of Egypt. He traveled throughout the country of Egypt. During the 7 good years, the crops in Egypt grew very well. Joseph saved the food in Egypt during those 7 years and stored the food in the cities. In every city, he stored grain that grew in the fields around the city. Joseph stored so much grain that it was like the sands of the sea. He stored so much grain that it could not be measured. Joseph's wife, Asenath, was the daughter of Potipharah, the priest in the city of On. Before the first year of hunger came, Joseph and Asenath had 2 sons. Joseph named the first son Manasseh. He was given this name because Joseph said, "God made me forget all my hard work and everything back home in my father's house." Joseph named the second son Ephraim. Joseph gave him this name because he said, "I had great troubles, but God has made me successful in everything." Verse 53. For 7 years, people had all the food they needed, but those years ended. Then the 7 years of hunger began, just as Joseph had said. No food grew anywhere in any of the countries in that area. But in Egypt, people had plenty to eat because Joseph had stored the grain. The famine began, and the people cried to Pharaoh for food. Pharaoh said to the Egyptian people, "Go ask Joseph what to do." There was famine everywhere, so Joseph gave the people grain from the warehouses. He sold the stored grain to the people of Egypt. The famine was bad in Egypt, but the famine was bad everywhere. So people from the countries around Egypt had to come to Joseph in Egypt to buy grain. All right, so here we see things come kind of full circle for Joseph now. So he went from being a slave to a prisoner, and now, because of God's guidance, because of God's blessing, God's power, he is now the governor over the entire country of Egypt. He is in charge of everything, basically. He's second in command, second only to Pharaoh, the king. So he's basically like a prince. Okay, he's the vice pharaoh, if you can say. So just like God made Joseph successful in Potiphar's house and in prison, God continued to bless Joseph and made him successful as the governor of Egypt. And so because of that, there was plenty of food, not only for everyone to eat during those 7 years, but also plenty of food that was stored up for the coming famine in the next 7 years. So there was no problem for Egypt anywhere. And as we can see, the famine was so bad that it went beyond Egypt. It went beyond to the neighboring countries. So maybe you're kind of seeing a little foreshadowing there. Just hold on to that thought. We'll get to that tomorrow. Thank you again. I sure do appreciate it, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye.